Hello, and thank you for listening to this episode of the Split Take podcast. This is Jacob, one of the co-hosts of the podcast, along with Chandler, and I am here to let you know that this is the very first episode that we ever did. You may or may not already be a listener of the podcast, and this is just something you're coming back to, or you're a first-time listener. Either way, you may notice that the audio quality leaves something to be desired. This is because I was using a different microphone back then. I didn't exactly have the best computer setup, and my audio editing capabilities were lacking, to say the least. I do not have the original audio files anymore, unfortunately, so I could not go back and remaster the episode. So we are left with this in its original form, exactly as it was published back in October 2019, which isn't all that long ago, but still, it feels a long time ago. So this is the first episode where we embark on our journey to watch all the movies on the BFI Sight and Sound Top 100 Movies of All Time list. We discuss some of our movie preferences, and the podcast was really just starting to find its feet. And it would be a while before I think Chandler and I have really gotten to the groove of everything. So this episode is very much not a reliable indicator of the quality of the podcast, both of the conversation and of the topics and the format that we usually do. That being said, I still think it's worthwhile, so I decided to put it up here in its full entirety so that people could go back and listen to where the podcast first began. Thank you so much and enjoy listening.
Oh God, Vertigo's number one.
Vertigo is number one.
Yeah.
Do we even want to broach that subject?
That's
yet?
it. I'm pretty sure the list is over. The podcast is over.
Let's throw it away. Start it now.
No, it's done. New one.
Top 10 circus films on Letterboxd. If you were a French New Wave movie, which one would you be?
If I had to choose one?
If you had to choose
If
one.
I had to choose one, I'd be the 400
That most
Blows.
represents you.
That most represents me? Oh,
Yes,
God.
if you were one.
If I could choose just the opening of Weekend, I'd choose that.
Just the opening?
I love the
like
opening
how far
scene.
into Weekend are we talking about?
I'm talking about at the end of the one take. And then once the actual movie starts, it can go off. Because then I remember
No, that one take is great.
It is great. And then I see Jean-Luc Godard, and I'm like, okay, pass. If I had to choose one, though, I'm going to say the 400 Blows, because it is by far the most bearable.
Yes. But if I were a French New Wave film, I'd probably be Le Mépris, which means contempt, which is how I feel about the whole French New Wave in general.
I 100% agree.
That was a hot take for our audience.
Right out the gate. It's a hot take. I appreciate you, France, for inventing the camera, but let the big boys, show you how it's done.
We're drawing a line in the sand.
Right off the gate. This is the BFI Top 100, not the whatever it has. The Cannes jury, I guess? I don't know.
Whatever they have, it's in French, and therefore it does not count.
Yep. No, you're right.
Because what was the magazine of the French New Wave?
Is it the same one, Jean-Luc Godard? Or Truffaut was a critic?
Yeah, the one that Truffaut and Godard worked on.
Okay. I don't know, though.
Was it? Cahiers du Cinema? Something like that.
I hate it just by the sound.
I've looked to try and read articles from it before, and they're all in French, and I can barely find a single one that's been translated, so I'm just...
Give me Roger Ebert, give me Mark Kermode.
Do you need anything else?
I don't think I do.
Well, actually, other people need the hot take, cinema.com.
That's true. That is true. This is true.
But yeah, we're starting with our first episode of going through the entire BFI Best Films of All Time.
The intro
list.
episode, the prologue episode, if you will. Which one are we doing? Are we doing the director's top 100 or the critic's top 100?
So we are doing both. So the BFI, the British Film Institute, for those who don't know, every 10 years they put out a list of the best movies ever made, and the last one they released was September 2012, and they had two lists. Well, critics voted on one, and the directors voted on the other. Both lists I felt were worthwhile, and I personally like the director's list more.
Same.
But I think there's worthwhile stuff on both.
The critics list is a good list if for the I don't want to say underappreciated, but the lesser known films. The director's list definitely has a lot more of those iconic movies, whereas the critics ones are the ones you're going to get like in between chapters of any film textbook, which I appreciate, but it's hard to get necessarily excited for. Because, I mean, who is Eric von Stroheim?
Eric von Stroheim.
Yeah, am I supposed to know who that is?
He was the butler in Sunset Boulevard.
Was he really?
Yeah.
I am immediately hyped. I didn't know a butler could direct a film. Oh, it's a silent movie. Oh, that's sad. He was I'm going to assume a prolific silent film director, and then he got to play the butler in Sunset Boulevard.
Well, that's why he got to play the butler.
Oh, he's Norma Desmond's butler?
Yeah.
All right, the director's top 100 list. The critics list is where it's at.
But yeah, how much of the list have you seen?
If I'm being completely honest, the critics list, I would say anywhere between 20 and 30%. The director's list, around 40.
Not too bad.
Yeah, not a lot of this stuff I saw in film school. It's been a while, so it'll be essentially new.
Yeah, but I think we're both rewatching quite a bit of stuff, though.
Yeah, I have no problem rewatching. I quite enjoy rewatching.
Yes, and I think it's vital to rewatch, as I wrote a whole essay about that. So what I did, we're combining the two lists, and how that's working out is I went and put both lists in an Excel spreadsheet side by side, and I marked all the movies that only appear once on the list, and then all the ones that appear twice. And if it appeared twice, I deleted the lower of the two appearances and kept the higher of the two. I'll probably publish in the show notes the Excel spreadsheet that I sent you a few weeks ago.
Okay.
That's generally the order and the method of this episode structure. It's just going up the list. Some weeks we'll have 2, some weeks we'll have 1, depending on how it all works out. If the movie, wherever the movies are on the list, if it's only on 1 or whatever.
So what you're saying is we have content for the foreseeable future.
Yes, there'll be, I think, 92 episodes.
Fantastic.
It will be less than 100. It'll take us less than 100 episodes to get through the top 100. Very
exciting. And then we move on to the French top 100. Or not.
I've seen about 50%, and there's a lot I'm looking that I'm excited to watch, and some I'm not so excited to watch.
Give me an excited and a not excited.
Might take me a second here.
Okay, better question. What is the best movie on this list?
In my opinion?
Yeah.
So my favorite movie of all time is Ingmar Bergman's Fanny and Alexander, which is pretty high up on the director's list. It's number 16, and it is surprisingly low on the critics list, number 84, but it is on both. So I did not have to get angry about that. What is your favorite movie on here, Chandler?
I'm going to be basic and say Goodfellas, because that's one of my all-time favorite movies. But I am surprised to see Close Up on here, another film I greatly enjoy. Big fan of Close Up. But what I find most interesting is that if you look on the critics list and the director's list, the biggest discrepancy I see here is if you go onto the critics list, number 73, The Third Man. One of the best movies of all time. I think both you and I can agree.
It most certainly is.
It is fantastic. And on the director's list, it is not even on it.
You know, I was aware of that. I wrote that down. I was going to bring that up.
That is insane because it's
a tragedy.
Because it's like I'm not going to say who's to say what's the best movie of all time? But I do constantly see, as far as British films are concerned, that a lot of people consider The Third Man to be one of the greatest British films of all time. I just find it interesting that on the BFI list, I know it's made up of directors, but still though, fucking Breathless is on here. Breathless is number 11, and The Third Man isn't on here at all. And I don't usually get mad at lists that are objective, but that opinion is objectively wrong.
Subjective?
There is some subjective, yes. Obviously, Citizen Kane's going to be in the top 5 of both of these lists. I understand how it works. But fucking Breathless. Breathless has left me speechless. I am pissed.
I don't even think Breathless is the worst offender.
I'm only pissed because it's so far up.
Yeah.
Above the 400 blows.
Yeah, well, I don't want to get too down in the nitty-gritty of our opinions of all of these.
We'll get to that eventually. I cannot wait for the Breathless episode.
Me personally, the one thing that I'm surprised that there's a not on either list is Paris, Texas.
Really not either?
It's not on either.
Isn't that director German?
He is German, yeah. A German director did a movie in America. How could it not be on the best movies of all time list?
One of the most best road trip movies ever. And not only one of the best road trip movies ever, but also one of the most American movies ever.
Yeah.
Simply, not even just in its presentation, but in sort of a lot of the themes it tackles. I was very surprised to learn just how German this guy was.
Yeah, it's surprising it's not on there. It's one of my favorites. And
what is the newest movie on here? The most recent. Do you know that?
I do not. I want to say I saw Yee Yee.
Oh, yeah. I know Brighter Summer Days on here. I don't know if Yee Yee is on here. I'd imagine it is, though.
Yee Yee it's number 96. It's only on the critics list, and that one's 1999.
Wait, are you telling me Mulholland Drive isn't on here? Because In the Mood for Love's on here. That was 2000.
Oh, In the Mood for Love might be the newest.
Oh, no. Oh, wow. Hidden's on here.
Cachet?
Sorry, Cachet.
2004.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Yeah, 2004.
That's probably it.
Mulholland Drive, 71 is on here. Oh, we get to watch Solo.
I'm not sure if I'm excited or scared.
Well, okay. I don't care how bad Solo is. Come and See is on here, and I'm very not excited for that.
Oh, I am.
I swore I'd never watch that again.
But it's a great movie.
It is a great movie. It will never leave my top 40. But up until now, I swore I'd never watch it.
You could abstain from watching it. You have seen it.
I'm going to watch it. I have seen it, but I don't remember enough. There's some very haunting imagery that will never leave my brain, but a lot of the specifics I don't remember. And I will watch it. I will make sacrifices for this podcast.
So why are we choosing this, the BFI Best Movies of All Time list, instead of another one like the AFI, the American Film Institute list?
Well, I don't know your reasoning. My only reasoning is because there's like 4 or 5 different podcasts that tackle this. Oh, my main reasoning is that studying film here in America and being raised on American movies, I've grown to understand as I get older that Americans have different sensibilities when it comes to what movies they prefer and what movies they idolize. And I personally was curious to see someone, an overseas perspective, a more European perspective on how these movies would differ, the top 100. Also, I feel like a lot of the AFI lists, it almost feels like at times like a fraternity, because I know a lot of the people on the AFI council or whoever it is judges the movies.
The secret Illuminati AFI council?
Yeah. I know a lot of the people on the AFI in the AFI actually know the people who made the movies. So I feel like there's a personal element there that sometimes might get in the way of more objective truths when it comes to film. So those are my reasons. I don't know what yours are.
Well, for me, it's obviously we're not really considering any other lists because there's, Empire Magazine, every website that has ever commented on movies has some kind of best movies of all time list.
Yeah.
But who are they? And it's really the prestige that comes along with like the British Film Institute or the American Film Institute that carries some weight with these lists, and the fact that they have industry professionals working on them. But the AFI seems like a lot of the movies on there were voted for by old white people.
Exactly.
Who have very conservative ideas of what good movies are. And it's taking, because they did 2 lists so far, and there was some movement, but I think the newest one on that list was like Fellowship of the Ring, which was surprising because there was nothing else that was remotely new or exciting on that list. It was all lots of old black and white films. Nothing wrong with that. I like a lot of the movies on the AFI list, but there were some that just seemed kind of behind the times.
No, I agree. And what year was that? 2012? Or no, this is the 2012 list. I want to say the AFI list was like 2008, something like that.
Yeah, they did 2. I think it was like 2008, and then back in the late 1990s. And I'm not saying that the BFI doesn't have any of those kind of issues, but it just seems a little bit more open-minded and kind of like a worldly sense of they're taking into account movies from all over the world, kind of broadening horizons, and that's something that I like. I like watching foreign film and just getting different perspectives. And that's probably the main reason. It has nothing to do with the AFI. Love American movies, but I want to watch more world classics.
Yeah, no, I agree. Even if The Third Man is not one of them.
I'll let them slide on that one time. Who are you, Chandler? Give us a little introduction to you, and why should we care about your opinion?
I'm a wannabe filmmaker, screenwriter, occasionally. Made a few short films. Some of them have been in festivals. Some of them were deemed too horrible to be shown publicly. And, I just a fan of movies in all shapes and forms. What about you, Jacob? Who are you?
Who am I? What a wonderful question. I don't really know. But what I do know is I'm a wannabe filmmaker, a director who is currently a unemployed artist, graduated last May and have not found employment yet. Trying to keep up with my my work as a filmmaker, though. Trying to write, keep up with that, keep up writing scripts, and then also creating the Hot Take podcast website where Chandler and I post reviews, and then this podcast. So that's what I've been doing. I like to make stuff. Directing is my passion, and I hope that I'll be able to do it professionally someday and working towards that goal. But until then, I'm a film critic. Not quite professional, but not quite amateur film critic.
Aren't we all? Thank you, Letterboxd.
Yes, Letterboxd. Shout out to Letterboxd. What a great website for posting what you're watching and your opinions on that.
Good for lists, too.
It is good for lists. I have too many lists.
We will also include our Letterboxd in the description.
Have you ever checked how many lists that I've actually made? Because it's almost to 100.
Oh, it's a lot. It's a few.
I get bored and I just want to rank things.
Thing is, I never sort my feed by lists. And I never realized until recently when I started doing that just how many lists people make.
It's kind of an addiction.
Yeah.
For me.
I ranked my years, like best of 2019 and so on. I have my top 40. I have my list of underrated. I have my, director's worst to best, but I can only do those if I've seen at least half their filmography.
Oh, I do it as soon as I've seen at least 5.
Oh, it reminds me, I gotta make my Bomback one.
What is your opinion of lists in general? Because I know there's some people who just hate ranking stuff, and there's other people who love it.
I don't see why. Yeah, I like it. I think it's just part of human nature to want to, sort of rationalize, compartmentalize. That's the wrong word. Rationalize and logically structure things. I understand that there's no such thing as an objective truth when it comes to, art. So I like seeing it because I like seeing how other people value movies, and you can sort of understand what people value over other things. They're fun. They are fun.
Yes.
They're fun.
They're a lot of fun. They're kind of meaningless fun, but that's...
Yeah, but isn't that what movies are? Meaningless fun?
No, there's some meaning.
Okay, well, true.
There's lots of meaning. Have you seen Paddington 2?
That's true. Unironically. Where is that on the list? That's probably the best British movie ever made.
It's certainly up there. I'd put it in the top 10.
I'd put it in the top 5, but we can get to that when we get to that.
Our first movie is the 1973 French film Les Samurai.
Which I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say has little to no actual samurais.
That is a good educated guess. And speaking as someone who's seen it before, there are no samurais.
That is a shame.
For those of you who don't speak English, Les Samurai means the samurai.
I was going to say that.
I was saving that. That was in my joke repertoire for the first episode.
Dude, that's been one of my staples since my world history class in high school when I told the entire class the Spanish translation to the country El Salvador, which, in case you didn't know, is Spanish for the Salvador.
It's good to know. I wasn't aware of that.
Quick little anecdote on the Les Samurai cover. I don't know what the typical Blu-ray cover is. I only know it by its Criterion cover. And I see it a lot at record stores and in Barnes & Noble. And every time I see it, I always think it's Chinatown. Because I don't know who that guy is in the front. I've never seen the movie. But he looks like Jack Nicholson in his little Chinatown outfit.
Well, it's got that kind of vibe to it.
Well, yeah, it's French.
Yeah. Well, the director of the film, Jean-Pierre Melville,
Mm-hmm.
who we'll talk about next episode. Interesting guy. His films are generally like the French noir kind of.
Oh, interesting.
I've seen Les Samurai, and the other film of his I've seen is Army of Shadows, which is one of my favorites. It's not on this list, which it should be, but it isn't. It's about French rebels during World War II.
Okay. Now, as we stated in the beginning, as somebody who hates a lot of the French New Wave, without giving too much away, do you think I'll like this movie?
This is kinda. It's not really. See, here's the thing. Your opinions are always. I feel like there's a rationale behind all of them, and I feel like I know what it is. But every time I feel like I'm latching on to what I think you're gonna like, I don't. But it all seems very like cohesive. I don't know if that makes sense.
It kind of does. It kind of does.
But I think you're gonna like it because it's not really French New Wave. It's
Thank God.
kind of like 1 foot out the door French New Wave. Earlier in his career, Melville was more of part of that movement, but by this point, this is I think his first color film. By this point in his career, he wasn't really a part of that movement.
Okay. I should say that as far as the French New Wave goes, I'm very much a fan of the aesthetic, the iconography of the French New Wave, but the actual movies themselves are unbearable.
I get this thing where like I will watch trailers or like clips or see like a still from something, just be like, oh, that sounds cool. I think I would like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I get tricked into revisiting Jean-Luc Godard or something.
Yeah.
It's really just Godard I have beef with. Truffaut I have more success with.
Truffaut is the closest I've come to liking. But as far as Godard goes, as I've told you many times, I will never forgive Jean-Luc Godard for not visiting Agnes Varda at the end of Faces Places.
It's such a sad moment in cinema.
It is one of the saddest moments of any movie, and the worst part is that it's real. Jean-Luc Godard's a real-life asshole.
It just happens right there in front of you on the camera.
Yep.
He just ignores her.
I think that was one of the most, I'm not even kidding, one of the most, one of the angriest times I've ever been, at a movie. I was just so angry. Agnes Varda is a national treasure.
National as in United States national or France? International.
International, I apologize. International, she's an international treasure.
She's adorable with her little candy corn hair.
Yeah. R.I.P. Agnes Varda.
Yeah, I've never actually seen an Agnes Varda movie, and I need to change that.
I've seen Cleo from 5 to 7 is pretty good. Again, it has a lot of the same problems that I have with the French New Wave, but it's pretty good.
I'll try her out one of these days.
After this list. It's on the Criterion channel, I believe.
Speaking of the Criterion channel, and Les Samurai is currently streaming on the Criterion channel. It is also available for rent online, various places, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you get this stuff. Along with Les Samurai, the Criterion channel actually has the complete collection of all of Jean-Pierre Melville's movies.
If you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah, I might, depending on when we get around to recording that next episode, I might try watching a few of his movies and seeing what kind of director he is beyond the two films that I've seen. Because Army of Shadows and Les Samurai are both stylistically almost identical. And I know his earlier stuff is different, so curious.
We'll definitely try to include director information in these episodes as much as we can. We're not going to read biographies every episode.
We'll bring out a biography. I'll buy a book. We'll just start reading it. It'll be an audiobook podcast.
It's nice to have a little bit of context. Still not going to make me like Breathless.
Any big fans of the French New Wave are already going to be put off. We keep coming back to that.
We immediately started with that. And it will be a running theme.
There's quite a few, unfortunately, on here. At least 3 Godard.
Oh, no.
I'm not looking forward to that. But I am looking forward to lots of other stuff on this list. So hopefully good things ahead.
I'm just hoping for not too much David Lean, because I can't watch 4-hour movies every week. Lawrence of Arabia has to be on here, right?
Lawrence of Arabia is on here. I wonder if that might be one where we put it by itself. Because that week it would be North by Northwest and Lawrence of Arabia. So we might split that up.
Please. Anything over 3 hours, sole episode. I saw A Brighter Summer Day, which I bought the Criterion for, and I'm happy because I was just about to watch it, but now I know it can wait.
Brighter Summer Day is actually the same week as Salo.
Ooh!
That's not happening. I think Salo needs its own episode.
Oh, God damn it.
Needs its own month.
Its own episode. Is it Salo or Salo?
Salo.
Salo sounds better. Don't they eat their own shit in that one? I'm pretty sure they do.
They do a lot of stuff. I mean, what do you expect from a movie called Salo or the 120 Days of Sodom?
Yep. You are correct. That is true. I'm very excited. It's all about broadening your perspectives.
That's the important part. That's what we're here to do. I'm going to get this podcast out in the next week, and hopefully there'll be a good 3-week chunk for people to watch Les Samurai.
It will gather the masses.
Hopefully. We'll post this wherever we can. We'll call the president and get him to do something.
Of course. No.
No? I'm at the president of France.
Oh, sure.
Whoever he
what's
is.
Macron?
Macaron?
It's something like that. I like that guy.
Or maybe we should call the president of China. I'm sure he could get it out on the airwaves pretty easily.
Of course. Double feature. Les Samurai and Winnie the Pooh.
Mandate it to over 1 billion people. Mandatory watching of Les Samurai. For the entire population of China.
I'm sure they would all love it.
Well, as long as they tune into the podcast, that's all we care about.
Yep. Human rights, yeah.
I think we'll end with that. That's where it got dicey, not with Salo.
Nope, not with the shit eating.
Definitely not.
Just Hong Kong.